So I mean, and I think that's like interesting is to see it because like that's like one of the things that I always joke. There's a strength and conditioning coach that he posts videos sometimes, and he and I had went back and forth on some Instagram DMs, and I was like, it's funny that you do a lot of the stuff that everybody laughed at my dad and I and my brother and I doing when we were kids. You know what I mean? Oh, this is bullshit. This is never gonna work. What is this gonna teach you? This isn't gonna do anything for you to improve your skill sets. It's never gonna do anything to improve your boxing and all this. And I'm thinking to myself, now it's all the rage, like plyometrics, whatever. Uh, you know, and it's just interesting to see that because it's like, well, I remember when people were like laughing at us for doing this stuff, and now it's like all the rage, whatever. Or so it's interesting to see how it all went full circle.
Well, it seems like now the strength and conditioning coaches are getting more love than the actual boxing coaches in all
Yeah. So,
accounts, aren't
but
they?
and so like, and that's where um I think there's a big rift, and it's not just in. I think it also exists in MMA as well, because I remember I worked with an MMA fighter, and I kept on telling him like, "What do you do for like distance running?" And he's like, "I don't do anything. I just really do sprints and so plyo drills with my strength and conditioning coach." I was like, "You don't do like 15, 20, 30 minute runs?" I was like, "You need to do that at least two, maybe three times a week." I was like, "Because you need the gas in your tank to make sure that you don't burn out by the third round while you're in the octagon." And I tell him, I'm like, listen, I'll stay in my lane because I don't know about MMA. I just know how to teach somebody how to throw a jab, throw a right hand, throw a hook, whatever. But I can tell you for a fact, if you're not running consistently 15 to 20 minutes or even 30 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, you're doing yourself a disservice because you're not building that secondary, I guess you say, the secondary reservoir of energy
Mm.
to use in the ring. Because if all you're doing is sprinting, that's fantastic. And there's a guy, um, he's based out of the UK. I think it's called Wilson Boxing Science.
Yes, yes, I've heard of them. Yeah,
Yeah, so and a lot of it is I get it. It's all science based. Um, and it's like I get what he's saying. I understand 100% what he's saying that you need to be in the red zone of this because this is where you are in your fight, but there's the unanswerable where you can't measure in a boxing match or in a sparring session where you're not going to be able to register what your heart is doing and not doing because there are times that you can sprint all you want, be at train in zone 5 or zone 4 of your heart rate and be in the best conditioning, and you'll still get gassed out because somebody will outpunch you. You know what I mean? And I think that's like one of the biggest things. And I got nothing against anybody that is trying to teach somebody how to get in shape. But if it's all within the inside of a strength and conditioning gym and you're not taking somebody outside to do something, um, I think that's where the disconnect is because it's so important to build like your what people call your zone 2 level of fitness because you're not going to be in the red zone of your heart rate the entire fight, and if you are, you're going to have a heart attack.
but you're right because I've come across boxers, pro boxers who predominantly doing sprinting now because the science backs it. So not doing the long distance running as much. Whereas I tend to say the long distance running helps you recover between rounds. The sprinting helps you keep up with the pace inside the round. So you need both, really, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
the science, yeah,
and that's the problem is that a lot of the science. Okay, so a lot of the science that people are using is looking at things that are they're looking at data points that don't typically uh, work. Okay, they're looking at data points from other sports. That's just my theory on it, and I understand that there are people that have data points when it comes to when they're training an MMA fighter and all that. but it's not a big enough subset. It's not a big enough group. If you're looking at 5, 10, 15 people in your gym, are you doing anything to train them in zone two? You know, because a lot of times people say, well, when you're sparring or when you're hitting the bag, you're in zone four, zone five. We need to be in that zone, the best condition for that zone. Well, you don't get to zone four, zone five without learning how to control yourself while you're not punching, because you need to learn how to control yourself. And I think um, it was Zab Judah or Andre Berto. I can't remember. One of them was talking about when they were in the ring with Floyd Mayweather, and they would say that by far, he is the most skilled and in shape fighter they have ever fought in their lives. When he would hold them, he'd be gasping for air. He'd be like, he's like, you wouldn't see it. He's like, but he's loading himself up. He'd get off of you, and then he's good. You know what I mean? And it's interesting because if you look at him, I mean, that guy can still go run 5 miles at a drop of a dime right now.
Mm.
And that you can say that about a lot of fighters that were super successful, is the importance of the long distance running is not just to build your whatever your reservoir of energy or to make you burn glucose correctly while you're in the fight and all this. It's the mental fortitude that it builds inside of you. I remember when we used to go run in training camps, and it's like, okay, go run, and you would turn on this corner in northern Michigan, and literally the temperature would drop by like 10, 15 degrees, and you're just running straight into wind off of Lake Superior. And guys that are um, from Marquette or been in training camps in Marquette will know what I'm talking about. That you would run down this street from the college, and as soon as you turn on this one street, I can't remember the name of it, you're on Lake Superior, and literally the temperature dropped by like 10 degrees, and you're just running into like wind chill the entire time. I don't know how much, conditioning I got out of it, but I knew if I did that 3, 4 times a week, I mean, that belt, like, I could take on anything. And the same thing, like when we were in Colorado, when we would run the base of, I can't remember the name of the mountain right now, but when we would go run that mountain, the base of the mountain, I knew that it's not just about the conditioning, it's also about the mental fortitude of running up that mountain and then coming down. And I think that's the big thing that you lose. Like, I get it. Sprinting is super important. We sprinted as well, but it has to be a balance of both, because in the ring, there's times that you need to relax, and you can't do that if you're constantly sprinting because it doesn't teach you how to relax.
Mm. Yeah, it reminds me of Marvin Hagler when he would talk about running in the cold, and he'd force himself to get up, run in the cold in the morning. That by the time he got to the fight, he was so angry at his opponent for making him run through the cold that he just steamrolled him. And it's that mental toughness you say, isn't it? They
Yeah,
force himself to get
yeah,
up in the morning, run through the cold, through the snow. Yeah, he was as tough as they came. And Hagler and Mayweather and Marciano, they're the three that come to mind when I think of the best conditioned, fittest fighters that I've ever seen. This fight style by
I'm
yourself. Anyone else you can add to that?
yeah. So I would also think of, when you think about it, there's a whole thing of, um, do you do it to get in condition or do you do it for the mental aspect of it? And I think you do it for both. I mean, you have to. Um, and I believe that it's like kids will say today, "Oh my God, I can't go run outside," or whatever. That was like one of the excuses. Somebody said it's been cold. There's been a lot of snow on the ground or whatever. I'm like, shit. I remember running through the snow. I remember slipping on ice, whatever, almost busting my ass and stuff like that. There was nothing I could do about it. I just kept on running, whatever. Or we went and we found a grass field that we knew that there was no ice on it, so we'd run that field. It was called Jane Field. I remember that, and we would run that field like 2, 3 times, whatever. Each time is a mile around. At most, we'd run it 3 times, 3 miles. And I remember like running that, and it's like going through the snow or going through the cold weather or running in heat, running in a sauna suit, and it's like one of the kids, not one of the kids, but one of the older guys that comes to the gym, he's like in his 30s. He's like, yeah, he's like, that's what's missing from the culture today is the training culture. He's like, we just don't have that. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, because everybody, flips their phone on and they think that I'm gonna be just like this by doing this program for 6 weeks. No, no, no. You can build the base in 6 weeks for running. Like I say, everybody. I was like, the easiest thing you could do is go outside, run for 15 minutes, 4 to 5 times a week. Do it every single day. Just get faster every week. That's it. Push yourself. That's it. Do that for 6 weeks. You'll be in unbelievable shape if you could do it for 6 weeks. Don't worry about sprinting till like the third week. Sprint the last, 30 seconds of your run, and that's it. You will be in unbelievable shape. But
I
that's
think
too
that's great.
difficult.
I think that's great advice, though, because
Yeah.
if an amateur boxer hears that as well, it doesn't sound too daunting to them when you say 15 minutes, but beat your time each time.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
That's
15 minutes. If they can't handle 15 minutes, then they shouldn't really be fighting, really, should they?
yeah, and that's like the thing is people are trying to overcomplicate. Oh, I need to run like three,
Yeah, yeah.
4, 5 miles. No,
Mm.
you don't, man. You're an amateur boxer. You're gonna be in that ring for 9 minutes punching. If you want to double your time, go to 18 minutes, but 15 minutes, go run that 4 or 5 times your first week. Figure out how much you cover. Run that same loop, whether it's on a track, whether it's on a field, whether it's in your neighborhood. Just try and cover more distance the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth week every single time you run, and you'll see that there will be a massive difference in your conditioning. It's simple. It's so simple, but
It's
it,
really,
it can't work because it can't work, right?
yeah.
If I didn't
People
write it,
people are
if I
looking
didn't
for
write it,
the magic routine, aren't they? It has to be
yeah, yeah,
complicated. If it's too simple, they're thinking, "Oh, that can't work." Yeah, they're looking for
yeah,
some sort of twist to it, aren't they?
yeah,
Yeah,
and it's funny because even like when you look at, we talk about the Soviet bloc, but if you look at like some of the plyometric drills that the track and field, people did back in the day, like from Hungary, from the Soviet bloc. Like you look at it, it's simple stuff. Like I mean, it's broad jumps, it's jumping up some stairs, running up some stairs, coming back, jumping on one leg, and that's it. It's like 4 or 5 different things, and then with the boxers, they would pick up a barbell and they just jump and push that barbell out, whatever, and it's not difficult stuff. It's simple stuff, but you know,
yeah.
it, it
People are
you,
looking
you
for
can't.
something, the latest sort of technology, aren't they? I mean, I remember one of
Yeah.
my coaches telling me, he said to me, "Run 800 meters fast as you can, rest a minute, do that 3 times, and you're done." But you tell someone that now, they're like, that's too simple. It's got to be
No,
something. You got
no,
to do.
no. But that's
You got to
but
do something in between or something. I don't know.
yeah, but that was like one of the things that we did when we went to camp, and I remember the first camp I went to was for the I think it was for the Goodwill Games in '98. Yeah, it was for the Goodwill Games in '98, I believe. And that was like one of the things we would go, we would run, we'd get warmed up, we'd do our calisthenics, we'd run maybe a mile, and then it'd be like, all right, we're just gonna run, you know, 6 to 8 times 400 meters. You know what I
Mm,
mean? And but it's nonstop gas. Like I mean, you're on the gas the entire time. And that would be like one of our running sessions. We'd run like a mile to warm up. We do 600, 800 meters. I'm sorry. We do 6 to 8 sets of 400 meters one time around the track, and then we'd go back. We'd have breakfast, and then we'd go do a little bit of strength and conditioning or plyometrics. We'd go have lunch, and then we'd go to the gym. I mean, it's just simple stuff, but now it's everything is overcomplicated.
yeah. I mean, yeah. You go back to bodybuilding, for example. They always refer to meat and potatoes exercises: bench press, squat, deadlift, shoulder press. It's all you need. Yeah.
Yeah. And like my kids, so my oldest kid, um, you know, that's what I teach him. I'm like, all right, we're gonna do we do the same thing every time almost we go downstairs to the basement to work out. We'll do wall squats. We'll do some form of like a farmer's walk or a step up. Uh, I get him to like hang from the barbell. I'm sorry, from the pull-ups. We'll do planks. We'll do shoulder presses, which he hates. You know what I mean? But it's like once you learn how to do like simple movements, they're gonna stick with you forever. And then we'll do like a single-legged workout, like with we'll do some lunges, and then sometimes we'll do squats, whatever, body weight squats, just so he learns how to do the movements and stuff like that. And it's like now that he does it, he's in a routine. We do it twice a week. He likes it. There's no there's no fuss, and it's like he's a step ahead of like most of the kids in his class because he's doing something physically demanding and he can see it. He can see the results, which is great.
I always learn so much speaking to you. I enjoy it. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's all the questions I've had for the Batavia Beerwall fight. So yeah, once again, appreciate your time and
Yeah, no problem.
look forward to catch up again soon
Yeah.
as